Welcome, Dr. James Beckett, Sports Card Insights. This recap covers episodes 1376 up through 1399. I enjoy doing the recaps. It's good for me to recap because it causes me to go back and see in the context of what I was doing over the last month or two. And I know that not all of my listeners listen to every episode. I think a bunch of them do. And whether or not they're doing binge or they get a week or two behind, then knock them all out in an afternoon or an evening or a morning, I don't really know. And I don't care. I'm trying to put out 15 minutes at a time that's not in order. So you can mix and match, do whatever you want to do. I'm not trying to make every episode equally interesting. Some of the episodes are for older people, some are for younger people, some are for new collectors, some are for the most veteran collectors. You're welcome to pick and choose. Again, the podcasts are free. If I were charging for them, it might mean a different way. Again, my strategy with podcasts is to listen at a higher speed rather than skipping, although I will skip ahead if something is a topic that I think I'm really not interested in that. I don't want to say because I really have a broad range of interests, and I know many of my listeners and viewers do as well. There's no right way or wrong way. If you're a subscriber or you just get the podcast or the YouTube episode delivered, and you can choose to listen to it then or wait and accumulate it. It's no big deal to me. I'm not doing this. Well, why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I enjoy it. And every once in a while, there's an episode where I come up and I think, you know what? I've never really thought about it that way. I'm glad I've had a chance to share that. But I don't know in advance always when that's going to happen. Rich can bring out some of the best in me and other guests as well. But the recap episodes are an opportunity to reflect on that. So that's why I continue to do it. 1376, the first one was the 11 listener questions 5.0. So that's the fifth time I've done that. I'm liking that. In a seemingly 11 listener questions, you can gear for 1 minute per question, and some of them take more. Some of them take a little less, but that seems to be a decent rhythm. I just think I'm never going to run out of questions. Got a big show coming up and then the national. So a lot of the questions come from people just putting a bug in my ear when I'm sitting at the show or walking around. So keep them coming. I want this to be a show that you enjoy. I'm going to enjoy it anyway, but I'm really going to enjoy if I'm doing things that people want to hear more about. 1377 was the Panini consistency episode, tying in their baseball, basketball, and football. I'm not saying that 2026 is going to be better than 2025 for Panini, but in the consistency aspect, if you think about it, whatever they do, what they've been doing in baseball might be what they start doing in basketball and football. And if that were to be the case, then they'd be treating all those sports the same instead of two that were fully licensed and one that was half licensed. So it might be there's some economies of scale for having three sports all done in the same way. I don't know that for a fact, but when they're doing similar products, similar of the sub-brands, they can get multiple usage out of the designs and some of the product ratios. There is some economies of scale or economies of breadth by doing that. So I'd love to see Panini do some new creative stuff as well as find a way to stay in the sports that they have been a key card company. They were basketball and football for these last years, so I'd love to see them hang in there. 1378 was dividing the purchase collection with Rich Klein. There's so much more to that story, and I'm not going to go down that road. Rich is aware of more things, and the guys that we helped, there just was more to it. We tried to deal with it in a way that was fair, and it was fair to the greatest extent that we could make it. But was it perfect? No. And I'm saying I don't really want to do that, and I would encourage people to divide their collections sooner and in a less complicated way. And sooner is almost always better. It certainly has been for me. Again, I thank Rich for making that a fun experience together, and we got a nice lunch out of it and some other stuff. 1379 and the 56 Topps Baseball episode with Matt Galvin, our young friend, and Rich was there. People like that. I think when we have a generational, Matt was collecting T cards, so he moved up to 56. So instead of doing his grandfather's cards, he's got his father's cards in one sense. But a sharp young man and has the attitude that is really helpful in this hobby is to learn. So he wants to learn, and he is learning. Rich and I were delighted to share some of the knowledge we had. 1380 was Pete Rose and gambling. Gambling is no longer necessarily cheating. You're not supposed to gamble. On the other hand, it's legal, and it's benign in the way it's presented in so many cases. You're betting a few bucks and not a big deal if you win or lose. And you understand there is a house advantage, that your odds are not 50-50. They're trying to make it like 50-50, but with what the bookies get or the service gets, you're expected to lose a little bit of money. I think people have no problem with that. They have a problem with rigged sporting events, not rigged by a guy taking performance-enhancing products, PEDs, but somebody not trying their hardest. And that is what needs to be gotten out of the game. In fact, if it comes back and it appears to be prevalent, then that's just really bad. So they've got to get rid of any kind of dishonesty. There's already an edge, but it's a fair, stated edge. It is what it is. If somebody is throwing games or missing things on purpose, then that's really bad. 1381 was the Ramblings with Rich Klein. You could read the podcast descriptions of the episode. You can dig in there, and it gives you a hint of some of the things we talked about. But Rich and I, we might talk about it a little bit ahead of time, but we could go any number of directions. 1382, the first-time show dealer advice. I don't know that we would be giving different advice if it was Rich's show as opposed to a bigger show, a medium-sized local show, or Kyle's really big show over in Waters Creek, or the national. Probably the first time ought to be something you can get your arms around. So if your first time is being a dealer at the National or at Waters Creek, that's probably pretty overwhelming. Work your way up, and Rich's show was a success, and he's got another one coming up Labor Day. It's pretty easy to remember. He's coming Memorial Day and Labor Day, so he's doing a lot of things right. 1383, the last part of the 56 Tops Baseball with Matt and Rich. Enjoyed that. 1384, these were coming from my extended interview with Jeremy Lee. 1385 as well. He had a road to the National Series where he interviewed serially 6 people in the hobby and got their take on the National. He's a very thoughtful interviewer, and we're counting the days now, so we're getting close. But that was out there enough that people could make plans. Unfortunately, if you don't have a good hotel room already, you're not going to be walking. You're going to be driving or Ubering, and that adds an additional complication. 1386 is the outtakes on Pete Rose for Hobby Hotline. Pete was huge back in the day. And lately, with this change of policy and the lifting of the lifetime suspension, like I said, I admire the way he played the game and went all out. And that is inconsistent with somebody that would have thrown a game or been part of something that did less than his best. He did more than his best from what I could see. 1387, the Panini platform. Again, there was a time when I wasn't getting products from Panini and I wasn't bugging them or anything, but I think they're making up for it now because they're sending me stuff pretty regularly. And yet, as some people have pointed out, they're a little bit lame ducks. They want to make sure their products are having visibility with podcasters, YouTubers, breakers, whatever. But they've got a lot of strong employees and procedures. And like I called it, a platform, is that they can crank out products. They've proven they can do that over the last 10 or 15 years. And so I'm hoping that platform can be used for other interesting things. The 10X of the hobby involves Panini as well, in my mind. And they may not be the bigger player starting next year, but I think they could do some exciting new things that would add to the positives in our industry. 1388, thoughts on Hobby News Daily. I didn't freak out, but I just was thinking, boy, I really miss Hobby News Daily. And Adam was on hiatus. And like I said, it caused me to reflect on just what I get out of it, what I like about it, what gives me a little bit of frustration. What gives me the frustration is because I'm old, because there's a new definition of news. There's a new definition of the way content is put out. And so I wanted to clarify that, and I was delighted that Adam is back, and I will see Danny at the National, I think, and hopefully Adam too. We'll see. 1389, the Upper Deck May hockey products, got a box of product from pretty much all hockey from Upper Deck, and they're doing great. Panini was in the crosshairs of Fanatics, and Upper Deck is just doing their thing and doing a nice job and really has good customer intimacy with the hockey community, America, and Canada, and probably Scandinavia and other places as well. 1390 and 92 were both the father-son episodes with Mike and Andrew Aaronstein. Overdue for that. I apologize to Mike. He's like a first ballot Hobby Hall of Famer. He's done it all. I really resonate with his entrepreneurial flair, which I wasn't copying him, but I really think that's important that we see innovation, and he certainly was that. And Andrew a great guy in his own right as well. 1391 in between was the Mike Johnson episode. He had written me before how our dads were similar, almost exactly the same age and all that, and the Gowdies. And I was hoping to get a little more out of him in terms of what his father's recollection was about going and picking up the cards. It didn't go the direction I want, but it still went in a direction that was fun for me. Again, the similarities is Dad grew up near where I was a professor. Bowling Green. I went there. 1393, my interview from Victor. Victor put this on his channel. I shortened it. I like it when people ask me questions. I like doing questions. And I don't think people are trying to stump me. They're just trying to ask questions that they're curious about. Victor, very sincere, thoughtful guy. And then later, which hasn't released yet, we went into some of the rookie card specialist things. 1394, 11 listener questions, 6.0. I'll keep them coming. And then 1395, the Panini June products, those were things that were just coming out then. And so when I can see that they're just coming out, I think it's courteous for me to deal with it more quickly. So I made some comments about those, opened them up. I had a good time. And as I said, the lifeblood of the hobby is new product coming out. And that's not just Fanatics. It's not even Upper Deck in hockey. I'd like to see a broadening of interest in products. And so Panini, I hope, is going to be part of that going forward. 1396, the ramblings with Rich and Andrew and Mike. Rich was originally going to join in, and Rich got in late. And so by the time he got there, we'd already done a lot of the father-son stuff. And Rich had some questions and goes way back with those guys too. So that was fun. So that's not specifically a Father's Day thing. And the outtakes on Fanatics Fest from Hobby Hotline, which was just a little over a week ago, I think out loud a lot of times. And one of the things I thought is, you know what? I don't want the Fanatics Fest to be more like the National. I don't want the National to be more like the Fanatics Fest. I don't want these complicated activations. I want the National to be mainly cards and memorabilia. And the Fanatics Fest is just a spectacular event. There's nothing against it. I think their lane, and I've said, I think that needs to stay in New York until it gets so hot then it's got to go somewhere else. 1398 was a fun episode for me. The cars and cards. I've been thinking about this for a long time since that guy asked me on the golf course that I had too many cards that I couldn't even count them all. He freaked out. But I did think there's some similarities in, like I got into the VIN, the restoration, that some people prefer older cars without the technology. Some people, eye appeal is a big deal. Color matching and the importance of color, being certified used car, all those things. So there's some similarities there. And we'll see if I get some questions about that people want me to unpack that further, or they may think that was stupid and let's keep moving. 1399, got a very nice note from Mike Steveline referencing a Brett McGrath podcast, Stacking Slabs, that I also subscribed to and remember listening to. And it was about a collector being the CEO of his collection or her collection. I thought that was cool. Mike had fleshed out some things. I followed his outline, and we'll see. If Mike wants to go deeper on that, I'll probably see him at the National. So when it's 24, 25 or 3 a week, it amounts to about 2 months. So 2 months goes by fast, still enjoyable. Again, keep giving me feedback so I can do things that I don't want to be repeating myself. I want to be doing things that are fresh, and my loyal, faithful listeners and viewers can tell me, hey, you've never done anything about this. I'd really like to know about that. So thanks again, and see you in a couple days.
The man in the house of cards. The man in the house of cards. The man in the house of cards is doing